And now, the moment you've all been waiting for.
Lads, I don't know what film you were watching. It wasn't the same film I saw.
I'm all the man you need, Mark.
Yeah, I was pretty shocked and appalled.
So I'll bring it up, Ted.
It wasn't a very good movie. I laughed at it more than I laughed at The Possession.
Good evening and welcome to Is It a Bicycle? Season 8, Episode 6, the original and bestest ever TV and movie podcast from Ireland. My name is Stephen Wrigley and I'll be your host for this evening. Beside me I have a man this week who said that Schwarzenegger wasn't the only one who woke up naked beside a dumpster in 1984. It's Mike McDonough. Also beside me is a lady who asked, why do we even ask rhetorical questions? It's Shona. I love Canada, O'Flaherty. Live from Vegas, we have a man who says that when a woman asks you to guess her age, it's like deciding whether to cut the red or the green wire. It's Sean, I love cans, Leonard. This week we'll be discussing some movies in the shape of Theory of Everything and Jupiter Ascending, and some TV in the form of Fresh Off the Boat. We'll also have some news and some previews in Coming to a Bicycle near you. So how are we all doing?
Hi everybody.
I'm carrying a cold this week.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so if I sound like a fish, I'm apologising in advance.
Oh, good stuff. Loads of coughing and spluttering.
That's right, yeah, even more than usual.
First of all, Steve, just to go back to your intro, many women have asked me to guess their age, and I've come up with a foolproof method. For anyone listening, not that I usually give out dating advice or anything, if you want them to respect you, you guess accurately what you think their age is. If you want them to like you, you minus 3 to 6, depending on their vanity.
I like that. There's a formula. Nice.
I also make them guess my age first, because I have grey hair, and they don't know what the fuck's going on.
Very good.
I finally got to see the end of Eaters.
Tell me, is that the Italian zombie movie?
Yeah, it's an Italian zombie movie.
Oh,
and excuse me, they've showed it half a dozen times on the horror channel over the last year or two.
Yeah.
And I always seem to just catch 10 minutes here and there. So I've actually watched this movie in 6 different sections. But I finally got the end part the other day. And it's quite an entertaining movie.
It looks like they go all out on the gore for the crack.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
So it's basically genetic experiment gone wrong. Everybody's a zombie. And there's a couple of lads who are fairly handy with guns who, as a means of surviving, work for this mad scientist who's trying to find a cure. And they go out hunting live zombies and bring them back for experiments. And obviously that goes horribly wrong. I mean, what could go wrong with a scenario
like that? Yeah. On the zombie movie scale?
Well, it's very much so a B movie.
Yeah.
But a good solid B movie. I'd give it at least a 3. Yeah.
Do you know, at work this week we actually had a discussion based on like your penchant for B movies.
Okay.
We got into a discussion about what constitutes a B movie.
Okay.
Because the person I was sitting with was saying budget alone, but I said no, it has to be cheap and self-aware of how shitty it is.
Oh, interesting.
Because there's cheap movies.
Yeah.
Blair Witch was cheap, right?
Yeah.
But like it was, broke
But it was a proper
ground.
movie, yeah.
So, it was good fun.
Yeah.
trying to figure out what qualifies as B movie in order to be able to rate it on the B movie scale, which is I think 5 at the highest.
Yeah. I suppose probably something on the ambition.
Genre.
Yeah, genre would help. It has to have ambition as well. Like something that they're trying for a general release, by definition, can't be a B movie.
Right.
But something that's going to be straight to video or straight to the sci-fi channel or that kind of thing.
So lower ambition, genre, cheap, and aware of its shittiness.
That's a good start, I'd say.
That's pretty good criteria.
Yeah.
Anyways, didn't want to hijack the convo.
Okay.
I just needed your input on that, Mike. Now I have closure. All right, moving on.
Is it also like the script?
I said moving on, Steve.
No, I
Just let it go, Steve.
No, I've got something to say on that. Fine.
Nobody asked you for your opinion.
No, I was just wondering, did you have to always get a 5-year-old to write the script? Or was that,
It helps.
Well, no, that also applies to Marvel movies.
Okay.
See, we didn't need to go
Axe
there.
Cop. That was actually written by a 5-year-old. John?
Oh, I was waiting for Shona to be on the podcast before I talked about this gem.
See, now I feel pressure.
It's fine. Don't worry. I'm going to do all the heavy. So there's this show that premiered last season. It was in September or October, called Lucha Underground. So Lucha Underground is on the El Rey network, which is run by Robert Rodriguez, right? Who from Dusk Till Dawn, both the series and the movie, we know him from stuff. It's an hour-long wrestling show. Not 2 hours, not 3 hours. It's 1 hour long. And it has a storyline. One storyline with lots of characters. And here's what it is. Dario Cueto opened up a temple, a ring, in Los Angeles and says, I've got $100,000 for the best fighter in the world. So yes, that's the plot of Tekken already. But here's the genius, right? The genius is, instead of doing like backstage segments and stuff where it's very obvious there's a cameraman just kind of watching two people talk and they're supposed to pretend they don't know they're being watched, it's all shot in the back like a Mexican soap opera.
Okay.
Because they just went, fuck it, it's a soap opera anyway, let's just do it that way. So it's basically an hour long, there's about 3 matches every week, and they're all fucking highfalutin, flipping, risking their bodies for like 500 people, 1,000 people in an arena who fucking love this show and are really fucking drunk. So the wrestling's amazing, and every time they go backstage, it's literally like, my father, was related to the ancient Aztec tribes, and I will be the greatest luchador in the world. And Dario Cueto comes out and he's like, I'm not giving you the money this week because instead I'm going to have you beaten up. And then they get beaten up a bunch. It's amazing. They also let the girls and the guys wrestle each other as well, with absolutely no worries about it. So the episode that I just watched, right, Chavo Guerrero, who is a 3rd generation wrestler. Everybody knows the Guerreros, and he's heralded and loved all around the world. Eddie Guerrero, his uncle, died basically because he was a wrestler and he was fucking amazing at it. So he's doing some wrestling stuff, but he taps out to a guy, and it's you're so dishonored now in the back. He's like, no, my family legacy. So then he comes out at the end of the next week, and he beats the shit out of everybody with a steel chair. And then his tag team partner, Sexy Star, who's a woman who believes that all women are beautiful and can be as good as men at wrestling and stuff, comes out and goes, no, Chavo, think about your family. Don't do this. You're my hero. And then he beats the shit out of her with a steel chair. 1,000 people going, fuck you, Chavo. Fuck you, Chavo. And I'm like, what the shit? And they do something like that every week. I think they've actually figured out how to make episodic weekly wrestling never shit.
Wow. Sean, you have sold me on that and a bag of chips. I would tune into a podcast to listen to you recap an episode every single week.
It's so good. It's only got 11 episodes out so far as well, because you can catch up and the storyline develops and everything. It's got character. It's really good.
That sounds really amazing. Cool. So it's a soap opera with wrestling instead of a wrestling with soap opera.
Pretty much. They do them both equally, and they do them both quite well.
That's amazing.
Cool. I think I'm going to have to watch this.
Yeah. I know the young lad would definitely be into that.
Exactly. Yeah. Did you see Catastrophe, Mike?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is...
Are you talking about a movie?
This is a TV show. It is on Channel 4. And it's with Rob Delaney and Sharon Horgan, who wrote, write and star in it. It's comedy. And it follows both the American man and Irish woman who make a bloody mess as they struggle to fall in love in London. Yeah. What do you think of this, Mike?
It seems reasonably good. I got a few giggles here and there. I like the mix of cultures.
Yeah.
They kind of take every opportunity.
More
to
of that later on tonight's podcast.
Yeah. That said, I didn't probably like it enough to watch anymore.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I thought there was a few things in it there that really sort of tickled me, all right. There's not just the clash of cultures, but also of sort of beliefs. There's a bit about the homeopathy,
All right.
and there's also going to dinner with her friends. Which just it's a very, very funny episode. Mostly based on the clash of cultures, I guess. But yeah, I think I'll watch some more of this. Yeah.
It sounds really good.
fun.
Like you've sold me on it for sure. So I'll have to go find it.
Yeah.
I'd say it may well grow as the series goes on.
Yeah.
So you can come and try and sell it to me again in a few episodes.
I wonder if when I'm watching it though, I'll be like, they'll be making jokes about, American Irish culture clashes. Although for the record, everybody, I'm Canadian. I love Canada. O'Flaherty. But I still think
Please don't mistake me for an American. Look, I got a little arm patch with my flag on it.
I'm just clarifying because I couldn't possibly understand the American Irish culture clash. However, I could maybe sympathize a little bit with it. So I wonder if when other people are laughing, I'll be like, oh, that part was the worst.
Yeah.
I remember when I came to Ireland and I didn't know what's that kids TV show with like the two,
Zig and Zag.
Zig and Zag. Yeah. I didn't know what Zig and Zag was, and I was like hung out to dry for it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
That's not my fault. Anyways, I know who Zig and Zag is now. I've watched it. I've done my homework.
What else? I saw a movie called The Rocket, which actually was entered for Australia's entry for international movie.
Okay.
Because it was in Laotian. Yeah, it was all filmed in Lao, and it was a boy who's believed to bring bad luck because he was a twin. He was born a twin, which is a big thing. And
that makes you bad luck.
Yeah, and apparently it was the way in some of the more traditional villages that you'd kill twins.
What?
Yeah, because they were seen as bad luck.
Jeez.
Yeah, so he managed to escape that fate, and it's a story about their village is about to be destroyed because they're building a dam further upriver, and so they're being relocated, and it's the trials and tribulations that follow that. But of course, he is blamed by his grandmother because he's bad luck that this happened, and then his mother dies, so he's blamed for that as well. And then there's a few other things that happen to her. But anyway, it's very good. So it's called The Rocket because he decides to build this massive rocket for this rocket festival that happens in another village that they happen upon, and it's pretty good actually.
Is its tone uplifting because he's building the rocket, or is
no,
it down because
that actually
he's
ends
bad
up being
luck?
a very small part of it. It's more about the journey before he gets there. I mean, some of the characters he meets, and it just shows how war torn the country was.
Right.
The legacy of war, let's say. There's a lot of people collecting, old American bombs for scrap, unexploded ordnance.
Jesus.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
yeah, there's a lot of it. There's some characters that used to work for the Americans, and just the influence of the Americans on is quite funny actually in ways. But anyway, it's quite interesting. It's worth a look. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
I have a question. Is anybody watching Girls season 3 or 4, whatever we're in now? No.
I think Mark used to watch it.
Yeah. That sounds like someone Mark would watch it.
Oh, he could jump into that, yeah.
I'm just wondering if anybody I'm finding the characters really, really annoying.
Oh, really?
Really tough to get through. Yeah, I understand that it's supposed to be like...
Are they the same characters?
Yeah. So, it's Lena Dunham.
Yeah.
Yeah, we watched a bit of season 1, didn't we?
Yeah, we did actually.
Yeah. And I think we shot on over
Adam
from
Driver's
height.
in it.
Yeah.
The source of my Adam Driver hatred. Although pretty much everything he's in I don't like. But it's supposed to be like the self-exposition, and Lena's very kind of well known for writing about nothing is too personal, and at the moment she's doing, like a master's in writing, and she's being accused of being too personal in her writing class, which I suppose is reflecting the conversation happening in the media. But I'm so sick of like these self-obsessed narcissistic dialogues in the show. Like they just drive me like it's hate watching now. It's becoming hate watching.
If you don't like that, you probably shouldn't watch a show about artistic people living in New York. Zing.
Point taken.
Mike, you were talking about a new reality TV show that you think Shona would love.
Oh, yeah. That's been my little guilty pleasure. I didn't actually want to bring it up because I'm kind of embarrassed.
You want to keep your cred
well,
with
you
all of your
should.
horror movies.
Now, I'd just like to remind everyone that Mike's previously studied theology. But I'm sure there wasn't any influence in this.
It's
Sisterhood Becoming Nuns?
yes.
Me too, I'm watching that.
You better explain.
Mike and I just high-fived everybody. I've been really enjoying
I can't stop watching
I
it.
know, me too.
So what is it?
It's such a release. I don't have to hide it anymore.
So it's a reality TV show that follows the lives of, how many is there, five or six?
I think there's 5, yeah.
Young women who are in, what's that phase? What's the D word?
Discernment.
Discernment, prior to becoming a nun. So they're going and living with nuns for a period of time. To kind of see, because they're contemplating life as a nun.
Yep.
And it's, you're getting to look about, life inside a convent, what the nuns are like, what the girls, seeing the girls struggle with giving up kind of their vanity, among other things.
Yeah. Geez, that poor girl threw some shit fit when she couldn't have her makeup back.
I know! The 2 drama queens.
Oh, man.
I thought, okay, surely a show about becoming a nun they can't make into like a cat fight that every other reality TV show is. But like one girl throws such a strop when she's not allowed to wear her makeup, and the other one needs her phone all the time.
But that's what amazes me about the show is like you would imagine people who are interested in that kind of a career would be quite staid, conservative, sort of quiet people. And these are just...
Isn't it meant to be a calling rather than a career, though?
Yes.
Yeah. What nationality are these people?
They're all Americans.
All American.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they are every bit as off the wall as anything you'll find on Big Brother or any of the other reality shows. There's one girl who literally has a conniption when she feels the presence of God,
Yeah.
Oh, really?
She's one step from writhing on the ground with snakes.
Yeah. There's that really awkward conversation in the first episode that I think they keep flashing back to well, there's only been 2 episodes so far. But they showed it in the first episode. They flashed back to it in the second episode, and it's 2 of the girls in a car on their way to the first nunnery.
Oh yeah.
And this one is talking about visions she's having of Jesus, and she's just like, and he was flirting with me, and I was just like, oh my God, Jesus. And then the other girl was just like, they do say he's the best lover, and it's like this whole conversation is bizarre. It's so bizarre to me because I'm not a Catholic. I didn't grow up with it. So this world is removed, but then like people devoting themselves to their religion. It's like, I don't know, a glimpse into a life that makes no sense to me. It's really interesting.
It's compelling viewing.
It really
I have to say, because you have such fuck-ups of individuals trying to get into this. And, it also is worth pointing out, like most of the convents that they go to, the average age is probably 75 or whatever.
Yeah.
So it probably is a pretty good career move. If you don't want to have kids, chances are in 10 years you'll be running the place.
Yeah.
You'll have the bank accounts, the property, power of attorney.
There's a lot of retirements coming up. Yeah.
And you can change the rules.
I'm so glad that you're watching that, Mike.
Yeah. I'm so glad I'm not alone. It's like I was in the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights.
I've got a series recorded, and I haven't recorded to record. I think it's Friday night, and I usually watch it before I even go to bed Friday. Like it's not even like occasional, informal viewing. It's like Friday night. There's a new episode of Sisterhood Becoming Nuns.
Oh, really? Wow.
So now that Mike and I have shot our credibility to hell.
Yeah. Nobody's going to listen to any fucking opinion after this.
Which serves you right, listeners. You should have known from the beginning. I am
it's
not
got reality in
trusted.
it, we're going to watch it.
Okay. Next up, go to the news.
So, big news when it comes to late night political satire. The Daily Show with Jon Stewart, one of the longest running, highest rated shows that tries to make fun of politicians in a sort of a watchdog manner. Its host, Jon Stewart, is stepping down sometime this year, which is big news all by itself, because the show under him has had numerous writing nominations wins at the Emmys for best variety show / musical / whatever. Both for writing and just for being the best one that year. It's got numerous wins in that. And Jon Stewart says he's stepping down. And what's crazy is that he has influenced so much that we don't really know about, because Stephen Colbert started out on The Daily Show, and then got his own show, which he just left recently to go take over from David Letterman. So it's a big rejig that's going around from the guys that essentially they served, I believe the line in an article I read was, as a comedy incubator, much like SNL did. Because, I mean, Steve Carell started out under Stephen Colbert, and now look where he fucking is. Nominated for a Foxcatcher for a Best Actor award. So it's a big deal. And I guess it is something that we could have seen coming, because he took a large break off to film a movie called Rosewater, which I don't know if we discussed much on this podcast.
No, we haven't yet.
Did you see it, Steve?
I haven't, but it's on my list, all right, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Rosewater is actually just about, essentially, they had this guy do a report, a guy from The Daily Show go in and do a report in an area which ended up getting a journalist in big trouble because of them. So he felt really bad about like what he had done to this guy's life, and he ended up making a movie about it. So he did take an entire summer off. So maybe we could have seen it coming. Whatever he does next, I don't know. But I hope that he is still in our lives for quite some time. Him interviewing Barack Obama, John McCain, etc., is always pretty interesting and fun.
Just on that, Rosewater's out in Ireland in May, actually.
Okay,
and,
that's interesting. It's his directorial debut, so I'd be interested in seeing it.
I wouldn't be surprised if his next move is more movies.
Probably. I mean, it seems like he enjoyed directing, and I bet it would still just be political stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a he has to do a daily show.
I was just going to say, it's just probably like a night off now and again. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And to have to be able to take in the news that day and the day before, and look at stories that you're following all week, and then try and present them in a manner that won't make people go, "This isn't funny anymore."
Yeah.
Pretty tough. So commendations from me.
I heard a great line from his episode last night, the typing last night, when he made the announcements that he said, "I'm looking forward to sitting down with my family for dinner for the first time in several years. I hear they're very lovely people."
Yeah. And the other piece of big news, which came out in a press conference on Tuesday night, or press release on Tuesday night, Spider-Man will be in an upcoming Marvel movie.
Dun, dun, dun.
Spider-Man sold out, man.
Well,
so we call him Sold Out Man instead of Spider-Man.
It seems like Sony sold out, except, the part where they get any money at all. It's being reported that they just went, fuck it, put Spider-Man in one of your movies, and then help us out with our ones, please.
Yeah.
Because we don't know what we're doing right now. So please just do that. And you can have your guys in our movies if you want. That'd be great. It's basically like coming up to a cool kid and asking if you can sit with him at lunch, then giving him all of your lunch and watching how he eats it so you can figure out how to chew.
That's a great analogy, Sean. That's a great analogy.
But it's fine by me, because if they have Spider-Man, so they're probably going to recast him, so I'm also moving to Los Angeles, so they're going to recast him, and he's going to be with Iron Man making fun of him, and then the Captain America, what are you doing there? And he's like, I'm going to make fun of you as well. Look how I do flips. Yeah! I'm very, very excited. And if I had to pick, I would say the movie he's going to be in is Captain America 3 Civil War, because that is a comic book storyline that Spider-Man played a huge role in. And I doubt that they want to hold on to him until the 2 Avengers movies coming out in like 3 years' time. 4 years' time.
Civil War is 2016, isn't that right?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I'm really excited about having Spider-Man in Marvel's hands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think Marvel doing any superhero, and Mike, shut up, will do a great job. It's very exciting. The analysis I read kind of made the analogy that, well, not the analogy, just said that basically Marvel gets to take all the credit for making Spider-Man cool, and Sony gets to be the one coughing up the checks. So, yeah, it seems to be a win-win for Marvel. Hopefully it makes Sony cool again. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it'll make them some money.
I presume this is due to the flagging box office sales that Spider-Man has been getting lately.
So Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2 weren't received particularly well by critics/fans. It wasn't that these were like bombs where people went, no, it's the worst movie ever. And it wasn't that they didn't make money because, you know. But when Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3 put together with these two movies is a $4 billion franchise, and it starts to make slightly less money, slightly becomes a very important term, percentage-wise.
Yeah.
So what I'm guessing it is that they went, you know what, I think we might be about to crumble under our own weight. It seems that we can't do it right to please the people we want to please. We need to reinvigorate the franchise. So it seems there's going to be a recasting, probably, and it seems that they're going to have their own new Spider-Man trilogy come out of whatever the Marvel movies do, hopefully with cameos from other people, so that they can make it like a union of the brand, but also Spider-Man movies that they get the money for.
Oh.
Yeah. You know what? They said it would never happen if Sony still had all the merchandising rights. Because fuck it. Like, make a shit movie. You can have so many toys that sell so much. I mean, wait a minute. Transformers? Hold on.
Yeah.
It's almost like the movie doesn't have to be good. And even if it doesn't make money, you'll make millions of dollars. How quaint. How brilliant. How evil.
Okay, so let's start with the first of our movies, which is Jupiter Ascending.
Which I thought was called Juniper Descending, by the way, everybody. That's how on my game I am.
Mike.
Jupiter Ascending is Channing Tatum and Mila Kunis and various other people floating around in space.
Eddie Redmayne, right?
Yes, and Sean Bean shows up for a while. And basically Mila Kunis is, unbeknownst to herself, the most important person in the universe. And everybody else in the universe, therefore, I mean, it's movie law really that they all have to kill her, because she's so important. And Channing Tatum is kind of half man, half dog, half bodyguard. And he, spends most of the movie bailing out Mila Kunis.
And wearing a lot of eyeliner, from what I can tell.
Yes, indeed. So the action takes place largely in space, sometimes in a little grungy flat on the Earth, with a lovable Russian meerkat family. And it's your standard big special effecty kind of space opera extravaganza. There.
It looked a bit kitschy, though, not really standard big extravaganza.
I'd like to hear what Sean thinks before I start that conversation.
Sure. No, that's fine. I can start. I'd like to open my review by saying that no one should try and see this fucking terrible movie. Mila Kunis' character has no goal at any point. At certain points, her life is threatened, so her reaction is, I shouldn't die, probably. But she doesn't do any of the work to make that happen. Channing Tatum does. If you want to know how this movie goes, I'm just going to give you a quick primer. Oh no, she's been kidnapped. It's okay. Channing Tatum's taken care of. Why the fuck is she? What is she doing? She's going to get kidnapped. She got kidnapped. Oh, Channing Tatum's got her. What are you doing now? You going to willingly go get kidnapped again for a third fucking time? Well, luckily Channing Tatum can save you. What the fuck is going on? The dialogue in this movie is terrible. There are no lines. There are no lines that you couldn't have written better. I'm not kidding. It is absolute bullshit. It's either edited terribly or written even worse than I'm describing it. Because there are times when conversations happen, particularly the romantic moments, makes no fucking sense for these things to be happening. There's no logical, this happened, which makes this happen. Fucking stupid. I don't know why she's special. There's nothing special about her. She's Mila Kunis, so sure, that's kind of special, I guess. Nothing else is interesting about her. At all. She's not funny. She's not smart. She's actually stupid as fucking shit. And she barely kind of likes her family, but then an entire plot point revolves around her actually caring about her family. Who, by the way, Mike, are not lovable, and also technically are not meerkats. They're absolutely ridiculous, stereotypical non-characters who no one should ever care about. There's a prologue in this movie that goes on for 7 minutes. It's stupid. There's no fucking reason for it. They could have just told us all that shit. Eddie Redmayne is a very lucky man to have been in other films this year. Because if Jupiter Ascending came out in 2013 when it was supposed to, Eddie Redmayne would not have a fucking career because they made him look like an absolute idiot all of the fucking time in this movie. His voice never goes above 5 decibels, except when he yells really loudly and looks like he's having a tantrum, even though supposedly he's one of the most powerful people in the fucking world.
I had heard a discussion or read a discussion about Eddie Redmayne's role in this film, about whether or not it would be tantamount to Eddie Murphy's Norbit. Would it be the movie that essentially kills your credibility? And that's exactly what I read as well, is that it doesn't, but only because of the timing. And that maybe some people might like, I don't know, the sci-fi aspects of it, but he is lucky that this is not like shitting all over him.
If you remember, Eddie Murphy was nominated for Best Supporting Actor for Dreamgirls, and then Norbit happened, and he did not win. I'm not sure what's going to happen with Eddie Redmayne's Theory of Everything chances, but now I'm not going to bet on him. This fucking movie. Mike.
It's funny you should mention the script, because I was watching it and I was thinking, this is a really bad script. And I thought, I could probably do a better job myself. And then I thought, no, that's self-centered and absorbed. And I thought, if I just wrote a big X on a Christmas card and then lined my cat's litter tray and left it for a week and then pulled it out, that would be a better script than this fucking thing. But there are moments of genius in it, because they're obviously aware that they don't have a script. So what they do is they make all the action scenes 4 times longer than they need to be. So let's have a space car chase. We'll make it 20 minutes long. Nobody's going to notice.
Oh my God.
And then it's kind of, they know that things are flagging because the action section has finished and everybody's looking around at each other trying to figure out, should I say something here? And then the director just screams at Mila Kunis, Mila, look at the camera. We'll focus in on your eyes and everybody will forget about how shit the movie is. and then, just for a bit of variety, the director screams at Channing, get your fucking t-shirt off. This movie depends on it.
Did they say the same thing to Mila?
Well, if I was making the movie, but that's not going to happen.
When you say moments of genius, Mike, I think what that really was people think the Wachowski siblings, Andy and Lana, are geniuses. And then they gave them a lot of fucking money. And they shouldn't have done that. Like, there's so much money spent on this fucking film.
Did you get any figures? How much did they spend on this movie?
All I know is it's a bomb. All I know is that it did not make money, and critically people are like, fuck you, movie. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I found strange is that there doesn't seem to have been, now maybe I'm wrong, but at least in Ireland it doesn't seem like there was a lot of money spent on marketing the film, because I must have seen, like, I only just barely heard of the film through a trailer on TV or something when all of a sudden it was in the cinemas and there was no build up. And these are like big names and it's supposed to be a big movie, and yet it's kind of just like limped into the box office.
I don't know. I've seen quite a lot of...
Oh, have you? So I'm just kind of...
Yeah, maybe you're just watching the wrong channels.
I'm busy watching shows about nuns.
This movie cost 176 million.
Oh my God.
And it made 19 on the opening weekend.
Ouch. Yeah. Actually, one of my favorite bits in this movie is it's Sean Bean's character, and it's a slight spoiler, but it doesn't really matter because it's such an awful movie. Sean Bean has a daughter, and we meet Channing Tatum and Mila Kunis meet Sean Bean and his daughter, and then his daughter says, "I'm just going to pop out to the shops." And that's it. We never hear from her again. She just disappears from the fucking movie.
Serious?
Oh my God.
It's like they totally forgot about her.
But here's the thing: when you don't like a movie, when you're not engaged in a movie, this is when you can't suspend your disbelief and you start to pick it apart, right?
Yeah.
Which is all I spent my fucking time doing, as people in the movie laughed at various parts of this film that were not supposed to be
Audible
funny.
laughing.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yeah. Well, I was doing it as well, because at a certain point I wanted to enjoy my fucking night.
Yeah.
So there's no world building, right? There's an attempt, but it's wrong. They did it incorrectly. Because the idea is that there's loads of inhabited planets, whatever, and there's a whole hierarchical system based on who owns what planets. Literally, people can own planets, and there's inheritance and yada, yada, yada. And that's fine, except when you go to space, maybe everyone's American. And I know that is a big stretch, right? That everyone's accents are American. But at least when it's that, we can just kind of go with it, right? We can just not worry about it, because everybody else is American. Why the fuck is Sean Bean English? Also, he lives in America and his daughter's that young. Why is his daughter fucking English? Also, does he have B? Because that's fucking stupid. It's ridiculous. There are people with weird facial hair and ears in this movie for no fucking reason. It's true. It's distracting.
Other than to put it in space.
I mean, it's stupid. Like, why would you even do any of this stuff? Like, so at one point, a character specifically says, "Don't think of us like, don't think of this like on your Earth. It's completely different." And then we watch a 20-minute sequence that is very important to the plot in the third act, where people go through a ceremony that is exactly like one of these on Earth. It's the exact fucking same. Same if Earth is a backwater planet. Why would you guys be copying us? That doesn't make any fucking sense. Also, why do all of your ships look like animals from Earth? Like, what are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? Have an original idea, and also don't spend $176 million fucking dollars.
How much of that was spent on the salaries, do you think? Getting the big names in?
Fair chunk, I'd say.
Think about 2012, though, because this movie was delayed for a long time.
Right, I keep forgetting.
When you think that... I don't think it could be that big, considering Natalie Portman was originally cast and she dropped out.
Smart
Good
move,
call.
Natalie. Natalie, whoever your agent is,
probably,
give them a raise.
She probably read it and went, "Oh, that looks interesting." You know, sped read it and then read it back again and went, "Oh, hang on."
Wait a second, I'm reading this sober now. It's not as good as I thought it was.
But it's funny, Sean brought up about the comedy thing. This could have actually been a really good comedy. Like a Guardians of the Galaxy sort of approach, instead of trying to be a serious spacey thing.
Right.
You could have had, like, Channing Tatum is part dog. He's a genetically modified creature. So you could have had him surreptitiously trying to sniff Mila Kunis's butt.
Or his own.
Yeah, licking his own balls in the back of the street.
What's really interesting as well is that it's not that this movie can't work, right? All the building blocks are terrible. But the movie could work. There are many ways it could. The reason I know that is because this movie is a terrible version of The Fifth Element. Do you guys remember that movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was Luc Besson. Bruce Willis was the main character. It was basically, there's a girl. She's the most important girl in the universe. And she needs to be protected and taken from point A to point B. And Corbin Dallas, played by Bruce Willis, has to get her there. Oh my god, it's almost like the main character has a goal, and it's tough for them to complete that goal, and there's rising action. Also, that movie just goes, there's a planet-sized ball of darkness, evil, and death coming towards the Earth. That's probably going to be a ticking clock and create rising action. We should do something about that. Whereas in this movie, it's just, why the fuck am I watching her go through a bureaucratic series of events? Literally a 5-minute long sequence where she joins a bunch of queues to get forms. Not kidding. They thought it was funny. It's stupid. It was in between two scenes where, apropos of nothing, she tries to get the ride from Channing the dog Tate. Seriously.
Wait, is this ride in the American sense or ride in the Irish sense?
The ride is in Irish, as in the sex.
Getting it on with a non-human hybrid creature.
But no, though. No, there was no getting it on. It was literally just a case of, I'm Channing Tatum. And then Mila Kunis goes, you know what? Here's a big speech about what I've always thought about love, even though I haven't brought anything about it up yet. Then, filing. They go into a bunch of queues and do filing. Get a fucking tattoo. Next. I've always thought this about love, just before you leave, because if you leave, it's fine. Oh, now we have to have an argument because of the plot. Then they had an argument for no fucking reason. No reason. This movie is stupid.
Well, Sean, I know that whenever I'm feeling romantic, I like to go file papers and complete bureaucratic work.
Like you're going to get your car tax.
Does that not do it for anyone else? Yeah, man. Valentine's
Stroke
Day.
those edges.
Valentine's Day this year, I'm gonna go renew my taxes and gonna do some house chores, and I'm gonna go
remortgage the house. Yeah.
remortgage. That's a good idea. That sounds almost too exciting.
Maybe you could check if you got the best deal on your insurance.
That's true. I could call around just to check. Just to check for fun.
Have you any more to say on this? Was there any redeeming features?
Was it bad enough to be funny enough to be worth watching?
No, they missed it on all.
So this is pure rage. I'm
This is
seeing.
bad.
This is pure rage.
But they must have known early on this is going to be a shocking movie. So the only way to save it would have been to turn it into a comedy and be self-aware, as you were talking about
Go
earlier.
B-movie.
Yeah.
Criteria.
I was going to say, yeah.
And they
Just
dropped the
not
ball on
spend
that
any
too.
money on it.
Make it cheaper. Lower your ambition. Become self-aware.
Yeah. One little interesting thing for the sharp-eyed amongst you, one of the Russian family characters is Maria Doyle, who was one of the backing singers from The Commitments.
Oh, no way.
Back in the early 90s.
All right.
Yeah, when Sean was a sperm or something. But she's morphed quite well into a Russian matriarch.
Good for her. So this sounds like a definite contender for worst film of the year at the Bikies. Early contender.
As the film was drawing to its close, I was mentally going over in my head, is this worse than Taken 3?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Unequivocal yes
Taken
from Sean.
3. It is.
What do you think, Mike?
Okay, give us a mark.
I think I'm gonna have to open the bottom drawer and pull out a big 2 for this one.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
A 2.
Yeah. Like Eaters was far better.
What
I agree.
are the two
This
marks
movie's
for?
a 2. It's just a 2. What were the 2 marks for?
Yeah.
The 2 marks were for it was pretty on occasion.
Okay.
Yeah, you got Mila Kunis's left eye and her right eye.
No,
1 point each.
they showed a picture of Jupiter, or a picture. It was a movie. But Jupiter was like a gas giant thing, and it was kind of cool looking. And then they gave, and I would have given it maybe a 3 if I could have enjoyed Channing Tatum, who has, he has these shoes that let him surf gravity. And I would have thought those were really cool, except 1, there's no fucking reason anyone would ever have those. And 2, they never take them off him whenever anyone beats him up. They're just like, nah, let me keep them. That'll never come up later. This movie's a 2, don't see it.
Sean, Mike, so do you think that original movies like this aren't going down so well recently and they're ruining the budgets and possible movies for the next couple of years, where they're now recycling familiar faces and franchises, and so we're not going to see as many original movies, because back in the 90s we used to see, if it was a reboot, they'd be like, oh good god, it had to be original. But what's your take on that? Do you think this is obviously crap?
Yeah, I think they basically started with a budget and said, okay, how can we spend this as quick as possible?
Well, that's what it seems to be.
At the very end, when there was only like $40 or $50 left, they said, shit, we better get somebody to write the fucking movie.
Hopefully it doesn't spoil it for everyone else.
I think you can't make a movie nowadays with a middle range budget even. You know what I mean? Because here's how it works. You either spend between 1 and 10 million on a movie and be fairly sure you're going to get that back. Maybe 20, something like that. You know what I mean? But if you try and do it like that, then you're not going to have that much marketing, yada yada, but you'll probably make that back and maybe a little bit more. Or you spend a lot of fucking money, which you can only get if A, it's already a franchise and this is either a reboot or a sequel, or you're Andy or Lana Wachowski or somebody similar who has a track record of having made films, and at least one of those was revolutionary in some way. I mean, they made The Matrix a long time ago, and Cloud Atlas was good, but everything else, it was just been hit and miss, and a lot of it miss.
The biggest one so far this year is American Sniper, but I guess that's a name that people knew. Mm-hmm. But then there's Birdman, that was pretty original, and Whiplash. Mm-hmm. They've done pretty well. But looking at the lineup for the coming summer, are we going to have there's going to be a load of new superhero movies and probably another Transformers.
Well, I can't see how Whiplash would have cost a lot of money. compared to this. You know, there's virtually no special effects.
In comparison.
Yeah.
Actually, we must find out now.
I mean, Birdman would have cost a bit because there's some CGI stuff, and also the actors. Not that they're like the most famous in the world, but they probably would have cost a fair penny, you know?
Yeah.
But genuinely, I feel like what it is that it's seasonal. Cause like from December, once December is basically over, from then on to like, late January, it's going to be Oscar movies.
Mm-hmm.
Which, you know, just people going, you want an Oscar? Gonna have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Just as a
They get
comparison,
the actors and the
Whiplash was 3.3 million,
Okay.
but they made nearly 8, I think.
Yeah.
And Birdman, the budget was 22 million, and they grossed 31 million in the US. Yeah.
So you think about it, like for 170 million, you could make another 3 or 4 Judge Dredd movies.
You could buy a country.
You actually could, like,
Yeah.
you could give so many people a shot if you just give, what is it? Break that up into 5 million chunks and make that many movies.
Yeah.
You would have made so much more than this has obviously lost. You know what I mean?
How much of that is
It's
marketing,
crazy.
do you think?
How much of it is marketing?
Yeah,
I
spent on
wouldn't be
marketing.
able to go into it, but the vast chunk would have been CGI, I think. CGI and time.
Okay. So, 2s. Okay, next up we'll have First Hour TV, which is Fresh Off the Boat. Fresh Off the Boat follows... well, actually, it's based on the story of Eddie Huang, whose best-selling memoir of the same name, Fresh Off the Boat, takes a humorous look at the lives of immigrants in America. In the 90s, Eddie, a hip-hop-loving 11-year-old, relocates with his parents and 2 brothers to suburban Orlando from the Chinatown section of Washington, D.C. His dad is chasing the American dream of opening a Western-themed restaurant, and Eddie and the rest of the family have to acclimatize to their new and strange surroundings. Yeah, so it's pretty much a true story. What did we think of this? Who saw this? We all saw this, actually.
Yeah.
Shona, what did you think of this?
Where to start? Okay, so I've heard a lot about this show, and I've heard it getting big receptions because finally there's a sitcom on TV that represents American immigrants from an immigrant perspective rather than from kind of, white American perspective of an immigrant.
It's like the second ever Asian
program obviously
ever.
Margaret Cho's show was the other comparison I've read, although they were saying that was kind of less favorable to the Asian community. So I know that there's a lot of hype and it's been really well received by people just saying finally there's a show kind of for us, about us, that's kind of realistic. I think that the show is really well written. It's quite smart humor. And I think that must come from the memoir aspect, that you have, something that's based on reality, from real experience, but also somebody who obviously, is a good writer and has an intelligent way of making a point. And I think a good way of talking about race relations in general is to use humor to kind of highlight the differences between, this is how we do this and this is how, you do this, and, to kind of open up a dialogue there. So we see, this 11-year-old boy who's really into his rappers. He has 2 younger brothers who are, perfect children. A mom who's, kind of like a tiger mom. She's a badass. She's, more strict. She's less keen to move to Orlando. And everyone's going because dad's opened up this restaurant that's like, Western themed. And, there's some good jokes in there. I like when Eddie goes to high school, and he's kind of cool because he's been accepted because he's got, a rapper on his t-shirt that all the other kids listen to. So he's invited to sit at the table, and then he takes out his lunch and it's Chinese food rather than Lunchables, which is what literally every other kid in the cafeteria is eating. And he's shunned again from the table because his food smells, and his feelings are hurt. And it's a harmless enough scene, but it makes a good point about the pressure, I think, that immigrants in America or anywhere would feel about trying to walk that line of being who you are, but also trying to fit in a bit. And we see that as well with the dad in his Western themed restaurant. And, Eddie, when he's doing a voiceover, it's kind of done in a Wonder Years type of perspective. And he's talking about his dad having swallowed all things Americana, and his dad's really into like the cowboy thing.
Yeah. That's actually him, doing the voiceover.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Class.
Yeah.
And it actually made me think, my parents are immigrants from Scotland, so I mean, it's not quite the same thing because there was a shared culture, definitely a shared language, or shared element of the culture, and a shared language. But my dad also, being a Scottish man from Falkirk, Scotland, got to Canada and he became obsessed with like Westernism.
Yeah.
Like I grew up on bluegrass music. I spent my childhood touring, festivals where my dad's band was playing bluegrass music, and my dad started talking in this like twang to people. And I'm just like, Mom, why does Dad's Scottish accent become twangy when he talks to people at bluegrass festivals? So that was just a little kind of, I don't know, something that made me laugh that I could relate to.
Yeah.
In my own very different life.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So I thought, I appreciated the writing that way. Although I have to say, when I finished watching the episode, my gut reaction was like, ugh, I didn't like that. And it took me 2 days of thinking on the show and trying to figure out why I didn't like it. And I think it just comes down to that I'm not the target demographic. Like, I don't really watch sitcoms anymore, like viewing for the whole family. So, the humor is very much aimed at kind of everybody in the family to appreciate. It's a bit predictable in some ways, and you're just like, you have everyone's stereotype, and it's not really the kind of thing that I watch, but I think it sounds like it's taking a step in the right direction for American television, where you have a bit more diversity in the culture, especially after the Oscars this year. We see diversity is becoming a huge problem. It's good to see that elsewhere in American film and TV culture that there is another voice, another perspective that's coming onto the scene. So, although I don't think I would be watching a lot more of it just because it's not my thing, it looks like it's a great sitcom for Americans to enjoy.
I have to say, I agree with everything you've said.
Well, there you go. You don't need to talk.
Absolutely, that's pretty much exactly it. And you know what I thought the problem was.
Can I just say that before we recorded tonight, I was talking to my husband about this TV show, and I said Steve is going to agree with me on this.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You won your bet.
Yeah. I've only one thing to add, that I thought it was a bit too saccharine. It was, it was very, I don't know, even the colouring and like in the Wonder Years, but more so. I just found it very candy floss or something. I don't know what it was, So. But it's interesting. I'm quite interested in this guy. He's quite an interesting guy when you look at his career. Like he went on to become a lawyer, and then he was made redundant or fired or whatever. So he opened a bun shop in the Lower East Side kind of thing, and then relocated, and he grew up that business, and then opened another restaurant, and that actually wasn't so successful. But then he became a stand-up comedian and a marijuana dealer. And then started writing for TV, and then went working for Vice, and had a cookery show called Fresh Off the Boat, which I think he now does on MTV, and I think it's called Snack Off.
Huh.
Yeah, so he was actually on Joe Rogan's podcast, I think it was last week, and along with the guy who plays his dad, who is Kim Jong-un in The Interview.
Okay.
Yeah, the same guy. So they're actually, that was interesting because they're asking him about, how about, did you have any personal protection? And he was like, oh yeah, after, the whole controversy over that. And they had armed guards for quite a while at his house. Sony provided them. But then he said he woke up one day and they're gone. He was like, initially he was like, nah, we don't need guards. Grand. And then they kind of got used to them being there, and then we're gone. He was like, are we meant to go shop like on our own? Where are the guards going? But anyway, it's quite an interesting interview. It's worth a listen. But anyway, it's beside the point. Mike,
I was initially enthusiastic about this because I thought, it's going to be a Chinese thing instead of your standard black sitcom or white sitcom or whatever. But as it went on, I started to get a bit bored because every second joke, well, probably 2 out of 3 jokes were about something to do with being Chinese. And I just started to wear a bit thin.
Taiwanese.
Taiwanese, Chinese is how it's described. Yeah.
It's only a matter of time, Steve.
Depends who you talk to.
Yeah. And I did like the dad especially. I thought he was great, but the rest of it I started hearing. I basically tuned out, and all I was hearing was the same joke over and over. And I'm thinking, if they don't sort that out, the series is just going to die on its feet, you know. Because if it's going to survive, it's got to appeal to people beyond, you know, an immigrant community or whatever. And I was thinking while I was watching it, you know, you do have examples of, say, ethnic comedies, for want of a better word, where it's not all about the ethnic background, like the Cosbys back in the day. It was all black. Everybody in the show was black, but they didn't spend every episode talking about what it is to be black in America.
A universal humor.
Yeah. So it appealed to everybody. It just so happened that the characters were black. And I think if this show wants to survive, they're going to have to move in that direction, rather than just, hey, I'm Chinese, I'm different. I'm Chinese, I'm different. I'm Chinese, I'm different.
Yeah.
Well, what I would say, though, Mike, a couple of things is, one, this show, Fresh Off the Boat, is exactly about that on purpose. Like,
I was just going to say, is that not the point of it, though, Mike?
That is the point. And also, if you think they need to appeal to more than the immigrant community, if their audience is American, they're all immigrants. Like, literally, it's either you, your dad, your granddad, your great-granddad. There's almost nobody watching this show who can be like, you know what? None of my people ever had to deal with that. Nah, like very few people. Well, I take your point. Also, there are jokes in this that are not about race, and I thought they were amazing. Like, my favorite thing was Emery is the kid that shows up. He's the younger brother, and he just first day of school, has a girlfriend, has his whole life sorted. Yeah. It's hilarious. Because that kid is just fine. And then the other younger brother has this joke where he's like, hey, Emery, would you like to sit next to me on the bus? and then he's like, sure. And he goes, okay, Eddie, where are you going to sit? I know you're on a different bus, but just so you know, you can't sit with me because I'm sitting next to Emery. It was just like
good exchange.
I really fucking loved that. And when getting kid humor right can often be tough because we've either heard it all before, or it's just like, okay, that's kids don't talk like that. Yeah. But I love that shit. Yeah. That sounds exactly how kids would talk. So I thought that was great. And I like that we might get to know some of the other kids at the school as well, because they do have this African American kid who watches as a Taiwanese American and a white American bond over a black rapper, and he literally goes, "What's wrong with this school? What's happening?" Which was the most "kids don't talk that way" line in it, but I still liked it.
But that's the joke, right? Because his best friend is a 40-year-old man. So he talks older. And I also like that later they're like, is nobody talking about the fact that his best friend is a 40-year-old man?
Yeah, I generally thought that was, and I didn't think it was overly saccharine for what I was expecting. Like, I genuinely expected, and also the colors I never had any problem with. I thought it was filmed or shot as well as it needed to be. They weren't trying to do that much in the way of cinematography. It was point at the funny people.
Steve doesn't recognize what sunshine looks like anymore.
Yeah, well, you know what that might have been? It might have been that it was the 80s. Because, especially with the rollerblading mothers. Yeah. You know, that, I was just thinking about that now. That's probably where that's coming from. There was a lot of, you know, like leg warmers and, you know, crazy colors, then, so, yeah.
But they were very kind of certain type of stereotypical, like, American housewife, you know,
they were,
from the 80s that are like the perfect Olivia Newton-John workout video. Mom rollerblading group. And I thought it was hilarious, actually. I think one of my stand-up comedy scenes is when, the mom is going rollerblading with them, trying to fit in. And, the head, rollerblade lady is, rollerblading with her dogs, poo in a bag.
Oh, yeah.
The poo just keeps like almost hitting this woman in the face. And she gets home and she's like, I had to go rollerblading with them, pretend that there wasn't a bag of poo slapping my face the whole time. It's like every time I go walking with my dog and I run into people, it's just like, please ignore the fact that I'm holding its poo in a bag. Just ignore that.
And it's well acted. I think across the board, well acted. I had absolutely zero problems with it. With any guest stars or any of the main cast. I thought they all did a great job.
You know the kid that plays Eddie?
Yeah.
So they brought in, they're doing auditions for this and they're looking at loads of kids who's loads of acting experience and so on. They're just going, no, it's not Eddie, it's not me, blah, blah. And then this kid comes in, he just sits down and immediately they could see that he did not give a shit. Like, he didn't want to be there, just like he didn't care. And he was just like, perfect. That's him. That's me when I was 11.
Eddie Huang has spoken out about how difficult of a process it was to turn his memoir into a TV show. Like, he has been quick to go to Twitter and just be like, fuck, this is bullshit. Like, this particular thing right now, this is some fucking bullshit. They had a marketing campaign at one point that, so it was no photos, it was all like drawn or clip arted or whatever. And it was fresh off the boat, all that info. And it said, we're all a little fresh off the boat. And then it had 8 or 9 different tiny pictures that were literally just skin color, facial hair, and hat. To signify different races.
Wow.
So literally you had a Fu Manchu with like a straw hat, like you had all this stuff. It was really like, we're all a little fresh off the boat, we all wear different hats. Watch this show at this time. And Eddie Huang went to Twitter and went, whoever came up with this is a fucking monster.
Yeah.
Like, this is not, what the fuck is this? Because it was just like, this is fucking stupid. And I like that he did that, and I like that his show still got on the air.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad that wasn't some ridiculous thing where he was like, don't do this, because that's a bad thing to do.
Cool. Any more on this?
I don't think so.
Trailer filler?
It's going to be filler for me just because, like I said, it's not really my kind of thing.
Okay. Mike?
Yeah, better for me. I'm going to watch it again.
Sean?
It's a good show, so it's thriller.
I'm going to watch another one of this because I have an interest in Eddie, so it's thriller for me. Yeah. So the next 4 movies is The Theory of Everything. Sean, tell us about this.
The Theory of Everything is about Stephen Hawking's romance with his wife, and also about his life in the period where he first started to be affected by his disease.
Can I start with this one?
Please do.
This movie is a movie that I saw 10 years ago. Benedict Cumberbatch starring in it. And funnily enough, Adam Godley, who was his doctor in this one, was his father in the last one. Yeah. But it focuses on Hawking's relationship with his wife and how they coped with his illness. And that's about it. And by the end of it, I didn't feel I'd learned anything more about the man, really. Except that he can be a bit of an asshole when he wants to be. He just seems like a normal person, actually. And, but I didn't learn any more about his work or, his, struggles with his work. It's all about his illness and his relationship with his wife.
Did you not enjoy the wife doing the here's the science bit for the priest?
Yeah. So, my main problem with this movie was that it had absolutely no personality in my eyes. I felt like I was sitting through it rather than watching it, unfortunately, because I really like Stephen Hawking's work. I actually have a couple of his books that I've read more than half of. Yeah. So I'd seen the maybe it's because I'd seen Hawking, the movie was previously, but I found Hawking a much better watch than this, and I'm just gobsmacked that it's won so many awards. Who's Eddie
Redmayne?
Redmayne was fantastic, and did anyone see the time when he switched with the real Stephen Hawking, or notice?
No.
No one did, but he did. Yeah. That's how good he was.
Wow.
Yeah, which is fantastic. And Felicity Jones was brilliant. I mean, there's solid acting in this. It's just not a great movie. It's not that it's a bad movie. It's just flatline, really. That's about all I have to say on this.
Okay.
Who's next?
Well, that's pretty well what I was thinking most of the way. And I mean, the main problem is that you're following the story of somebody who's progressively getting sicker and less capable of doing anything physical over the course of their life. So almost by definition, there's less and less opportunity for anything dramatic to happen. You know, he's not going to turn into Iron Man or something unless he invents a suit or whatever. And because they took the decision to remove virtually all traces of science from the movie, what you were left with was this portrayal of a sick person getting sicker. And that's just fundamentally not that interesting. Unless he started out as a kind of an evil, unlikable person, and then you could enjoy the fact he was getting sicker. But he came across as quite a personable young man, so you felt sorry for him, for his fate.
Yeah.
So that even took that ounce of pleasure away from me in terms of my enjoyment of it. So yeah, it doesn't have a hook. It doesn't have any excitement. There was no point where I was kind of, thrilled or on the edge of my seat or anything. It was just, there's a story. Oh, I knew that story already. I hope
Is
it ends.
that the problem, that we knew it already, maybe?
Well, I mean, it's fairly common knowledge, It's not like he's been hiding out in Tibet somewhere for 20 years,
Yeah. Well, so is American Sniper, and so is Titanic, and so is... You know what I mean?
Yeah, but all of those stories have a dramatic element to them.
No, yeah, okay, yeah.
And if you even look at other examples of movies about tortured, brilliant minds, you have, like, The Beautiful Mind, even Rain Man, what was that one? Good Will Hunting. All of them have, the gift, and they spend some time on the gift, and then they have something that's quite dramatic happening in the outside world. That's missing from this.
Okay.
I feel kind of like taking the component parts of your guys' reviews. I can mold them into my own opinion to disagree with you. Because, Steve, you said that you didn't learn anything. I learned fucking loads of shit. Like, I didn't know the only thing I knew was the main facet that he will eventually end up as the guy who did a Specsavers commercial once. Like, that's, like, genuinely.
Okay, well, maybe that's
the one thing that I really, really remembered. And
maybe that's, I'm right in saying that maybe the problem is that I knew his life story already. Maybe.
Yeah. And here's the thing. You said that he just ended up seeming like an ordinary guy. That's an amazing thing for a movie this widely seen to have done. Because usually what happens is they go, look how disabled a person can be. Do you see this person, how they're disabled and how their life is now irrevocably separate and different from yours? You know how they're like different. You know how they're different from everybody else.
Like
and instead of that process, instead of that process of othering, it was literally just, well, this is him. And as for drama, the drama wasn't in that process ever not happening or there being a chance that X, Y, and Z wouldn't happen. It was, will he be able to do the things that it seems based on his ability? Will he be able to do those things? Will he be able to survive long enough to do those things?
Right. Well, I mean, just on that point, number one, they didn't address why he survived. They just ignored the fact that he's lived 2 years, or he was supposed to live 2 years and he's still here 50 years later or whatever. Mm-hmm. And number two, he didn't succeed. He still hasn't succeeded in what he set out to do. So, it's a lifelong work for him. And they just kind of ignored the fact in the movie that he still hasn't succeeded. Now, I don't blame him for not succeeding. What he's trying to do is really, really fucking hard. but that's the case. It messes it up.
And to me, it seems like the answer for why he's still here and the answer as to what was his goal, what was he trying to achieve, comes in the form of his marriage. And nothing to do with the science. I don't think it was a movie about science at all, which I didn't have a problem with. He was in a relationship with someone that became incredibly complicated. We already know how complicated relationships are, especially when one of you is that kind of smart to that degree. And when the other of you likes dancing and church. You know what I mean? Like, at a very basic level. And I thought that the movements of that were quite interesting. There's a moment where he reads or she reads a passage from his book that allows for at least a kind of theism. And she goes, really? Like, you're actually going to give it to me? You're actually going to let us not have that argument anymore? And I was like, this is cool. Because this is so specific, to distill so specific a moment. That's the kind of thing that you should have in movies to know characters. And also, they could have made this a big drama. They had multiple opportunities. They could have had moments where it was like, ooh, well, if this happens and this person's the baddie and this person's the goodie. And if we treat it the same way these kinds of stories have always been treated, we can get that kind of combative element of drama. But instead they went, no, that's not what happened. And that's not what always happens. These are two people who really, really love each other. And here's what happened in their lives.
It's based on Jane's memoirs, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it is.
It is, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. So I got a lot out of it in that way, and I felt like I learned a lot. And here's one thing I had a problem with. I felt for about 20 minutes, because they were showing the progression of his disease in the early stages, where it goes from he's fine to he can't walk by himself. I felt like that was almost mean. I don't know how to say it any other way, but it was just this case of there were so many shots. They were just like, oh, look at this. That I almost felt bad, like they were trotting out, look, isn't this the worst part? Which I got over by the end of the movie, because I realized that was what they were doing. But there's a moment, for example, when he's in a bunk bed, right? At college, and he gets out of the bunk bed, hops on his desk, pops off his desk, goes. And they zoom in on his feet and ankle, like, they zoom in on the bend of him, like going there. And I just went, okay, I don't know if I wanted this, like, visceral of an experience to watch somebody be incapable of X, Y, and Z. That was one thing I was worried about, and thankfully it didn't go the other way, because I was expecting them to trot that out too much.
Mm-hmm. Shona.
All right.
Big deep breath.
I watched the BAFTAs on Sunday, which was the day before I went to go see this film. And in the BAFTAs, one of the nominations for The Theory of Everything, the clip that it showed for the nomination, it might have been one of the best acting nominations, was a scene between Eddie Redmayne and, what's her name again?
Felicity Jones.
Felicity Jones. And it's a scene where there was no dialogue, and they're just staring at each other, and it looks like he's trying to say I love you, or he's trying to say something, but this is obviously the stage of the development of his disease where he is no longer able to talk. And it's a scene without any dialogue, but it was so full of emotion, and you in that snapshot of just like the BAFTA clip, I picked up on the story of what was happening in that scene, and it was so emotive. I decided I really do need to see this film. So I saw it the next day. I think I would be more leaning towards Sean's view of the film in that, I didn't really know anything about Stephen Hawking, except for that I know that he's a genius, and, I would know of his famous works. I don't own any of them, so I haven't read even half.
I give you loan of some.
I know they exist. So I also got to learn a lot about kind of the writing that he did at various stages of his career, how he decided on his PhD, who his mentors were professionally that started at school. You get a great glimpse into his personality when he's able to emote a lot more, when he's still healthy and quite vivacious, and so you get to see him flirting with Felicity Jones. And, he likes beer, he likes joking with the guys. He likes all the things that, any person would like. So I agree with Sean that job of normalizing him was really well done, that it wasn't like, I didn't at any point feel that the film was trying to make me feel sorry for Stephen Hawking. I think it was, I liked that they took the opposite approach, that it was just like, his disability is almost a side story, because this is a story about the triumph of his mind and his intellect, and the fact that ALS didn't stop him from writing these works that changed the way that we see the world. I found that to be more central than even the Felicity Jones story. However, not by much. I think that the relationship that they show developing between the two of them, was really well done. I liked, I think that they went, like that clip I saw from the BAFTAs, they were able to show a lot of emotional depth between them without always having to go big and dramatic about it. So that's the good stuff I liked about the film. However, I think that there was a big lag in the middle. There became a point where I was just thinking, like, I know more or less where Stephen Hawking ends up. Because the reason I'm going to see this film is because he's a famous person and I know who he is and what he's contributed, more or less. So when you kind of know the end game more so than the beginning, for me after a while it was just like, okay, well, we know where he's going. And I began to feel that the relationships and everything that was happening there was happening a bit slower, and the portrayal of his professional evolution, his personal evolution. You had been on the track long enough. You knew kind of where it was going. So it took a little bit too long, and I found myself starting to lose a bit of interest in the middle, if I'm quite honest. And then I got into a discussion after the film with my husband about it, and, he made a point that I've been kind of thinking on since about British cinema, and whether British cinema is bringing out an almost formulaic approach to memorializing their heroes. I know we saw it recently with The Imitation Game and Alan Turing. We're seeing it now with Stephen Hawking. I'm sure there's more that I could list. I won't for the purposes of this point.
Chariots of Fire.
Okay, sure. So, and the difficulty I'm having with this, let's call it a formulaic approach to British heroes, is that I feel like it's becoming more difficult to separate the discussion on the worth and contribution of the hero in question and the film that's being made about them. I didn't particularly like The Imitation Game. I don't really get what all of that hype is about the acting. I didn't love the film. Of course, it goes without saying that Alan Turing's work was incredible and groundbreaking. His story is tragic. But that doesn't mean that I like a film. Has nothing to do with what I'm saying about the man. I kind of feel the same way about The Theory of Everything, that obviously Stephen Hawking, is a genius who we have a lot to learn about. I think both in terms of his contribution to Philosophies on Time, as well as even, how, as we do see in the movie, how he's, creating these complex relationships and I don't want to talk about the personal relationships too much because I think it's an important part of the film that you need to kind of see in order to discover. But, the acting was incredible, I think, in particular from Eddie Redmayne, in order to undertake such a physical role believably, and even apparently, according to Steve, mix up with Stephen Hawking in one scene and not be noticed.
Yeah, it's where he's overlooking his children in Buckingham Palace.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Is that actually him?
Yeah.
Wow. The acting was incredible. Felicity Jones was amazing. I don't think the film is as big as the attention it's getting, at least not in my opinion. It has nothing to do with the subject matter at all. I think the acting was incredible, but I just don't know that the film lives up to all of the hype that it's getting right now. And my question is it possible that we're confusing subject matter with film credit? I put that to you.
Mm.
Oh no, it's just that if they're real people, there's a better chance that you're gonna win an Oscar. That's just the way that it's gone.
Yeah.
So that's the way that it is.
That's what Wild is. That's what Selma is. Let's look at all of our Oscar contenders this year.
Yeah.
Imitation Game.
Foxcatcher.
Yeah, Foxcatcher, Imitation Game. Yeah.
What it is that now there's an idea of what an Oscar movie is. That's all it really is. The idea of an Oscar movie is someone who has great trauma or tragedy in their life, usually for long periods of time. Someone who triumphs over that in some manner, and if it's real, we will love it.
Yeah, so I was sort of had this conversation earlier, and I sort of put it that whoever is popular in pop culture right now is also in with a shout. nearly regardless of what the movie is. But the one exception being, of course, from a number of years ago, The Artist, the silent movie, which came out of nowhere.
Oh yeah, wasn't that so bad?
Oh, Mike.
But it's just that
it was genre defying. It was Oscar defying in terms
yeah,
of
it was, because
in terms of its history.
It nearly gave them like merit, because it wasn't just someone's battle, against something, someone that we know who's famous, and someone really famous that's in it, that's really popular in pop culture right now, and it just came out of left field. So I'm
and
not
then
sure.
now we've fallen away from that originality,
exactly.
and we're back into maybe a trope. Would you call this a trope? I don't know.
Oh, possibly.
Predictability, anyways.
A tripe.
Tripey trope.
So do you want to mark Theory of Everything?
Let's do it.
Shona.
Great acting. Don't know if I love the film. I'll give it a 7.
Sean.
I debated a lot between these two, and I don't know where, because I think this is better than American Sniper, for example. You know what I mean? And based on the strength of performances, and I know I gave that an 8. So I don't know. It's around there. It's a soft and weak 8 from me.
Mike.
Somebody I knew during the week watched this and thought it was absolutely brilliant. And when I revealed that I didn't like it, I was accused of being an inhuman beast. But I'm going to
see that's somebody confusing subject matter and movie quality. Pull that one out of your pocket next time you get yelled at.
But I thought this was a complete and utter snooze fest. I learned nothing from it. I think that's the price you pay for reading books and stuff. So I'm going to give this 4.
A 4. I'm not far off it myself, Mike. I thought the film was average, great acting and so on, but
you can't deny that
great
acting was
performance.
great.
But it's a 5 for me.
All right.
So
average
next
mark.
up, we have some previews in Coming to a Bicycle near you. Okay, first up is Poltergeist 3D. Mike, is this your?
I'm a bit worried about this. I didn't put this on the list.
Oh, really?
It's not my fault. I'm a bit worried about it because I like the original. I'm assuming this is a remake. It looks kind of like it, yeah. So I don't know if you can just capture the total fear of the black and white TV screen that we had back in the day.
I think they might have new tricks though.
Maybe.
Shona, this looks right up your street.
How did you know?
I bet you can't wait.
Do you know, actually, I will say,
for this.
Do you know what I was thinking when I was watching this trailer was that Poltergeist, I haven't seen the original Poltergeist because I think I wouldn't sleep for the rest of my life. But the trailer actually looked kind of interesting. Like, I would be interested to see what it looks like, even though I would never be able to watch it.
Right.
Because I'm sure it'll still get scary. Like you said, Steve, there's going to be new tricks and it's going to be scary in a different way. But as a trailer telling a story, it tells a story, it looks intriguing. There's potential for some cool, scary stuff, although it doesn't give away any secrets, so you really get pulled into the film. So I think it's done a good job of selling the remake.
Yeah, it's one of those films that's going to have a lot of boo moments.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, fright moments. But
like the trailer finishes on that when she goes like hiked up the stairs.
That, I was just going to say that is absolutely the scariest part of the whole trailer.
Yeah, it's like The Exorcist, when she does the crab walk. Like, children moving in unnatural ways is terrifying.
But it's not only that, it's the speed and the strength.
Yeah.
That's when I just went, oh, right. Because the rest of it was just like, I've seen it before, and then just, oh, right. Yeah, this one, okay. So definitely on your list, Mike. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Next one was Beyond the Reach, and this is where Michael Douglas hunts Jeremy Irvine in the Mojave Desert for, I'm not sure what reason.
No apparent reason, really.
Yeah. He's got a cool pickup truck, though.
Yeah, he does.
The Merc 6x6. Nice. But yeah, so he's a super sharp shooter hunter dude, Michael Douglas.
Yeah.
And
well, it looks like
why are they out there originally?
It looks like they're out there. The young guy, it looks like he does tours in the desert for some reason. This guy, Michael Douglas goes with them. They end up shooting stuff that they think is just stuff. They end up killing somebody. And then the young guy wants to kind of let somebody know because he knows the guy that's been killed. Michael Douglas holds a gun up at him and says, you can't tell anybody because obviously it's going to threaten his career somehow back home. So he forces this kid to take off all of his clothes and basically run through the desert. So he's like, I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to watch you die. Tagline to the film. So you're like, all right, this is like a Western movie of Michael Douglas hunting a mostly naked young guy who's getting increasingly sunburnt. And all I felt watching the trailer was like, please give him sunscreen. He's getting so red and blistered. And then you can see the evolution of the skin becoming red and burnt and blistered. But he's obviously got...
That's an affliction close to your heart.
It's so painful. But you see him find like his caves and tunnels and ways to kind of get away from Michael Douglas, so it's a bit of a chase movie.
I just don't know how they're going to keep this interesting.
Yeah. I just found watching somebody get that badly sunburnt so physically uncomfortable. I don't think I could watch this film on that alone.
I don't know. I'd like to see Michael Douglas doing this movie. He really
he makes a good villain.
He does. He really struck me as being a really evil bastard. You know?
Yeah.
I think he could
more
be
Michael Douglas villain films.
Yeah. The last one we saw was Juja. Are we going to debate how to pronounce it?
It's not a language I know, so I couldn't tell you.
Yoya. Could be Yoya because it's set in Argentina. Yoya. Hoo-ha. Yeah.
Viggo Mortensen.
Viggo Mortensen.
Speaking not English.
Yeah, so he is a Danish dude down in Argentina in 1882, was it they said at the start? So it's a bit of a Western, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Looks interesting. They're looking to try and find a way back to Denmark, it seems. And
I thought it was like he was with, I don't know, an army type thing, and then his daughter, and then the other...
She goes missing.
Yeah, and he goes hunting for her as well, or something.
Yeah, it's like, I'll keep alive, I'll find you. You know,
but
I think it's going
what's
to be
weird
one of
is
those.
that the trailer, he just keeps...
Michael Douglas is on his way.
In the trailer, though, he just keeps calling her daughter. Like, there's no name. It's just like, my daughter, where's my daughter? Daughter!
Yeah,
that
was
I have a neighbour, actually. He has 3 children, and he calls them all John, including his daughter, because he can't remember their names.
My brother, being the only son of my dad's nickname is Boy Child. My dad called him Boy Child growing up.
But yeah, he tends to do that looking for his daughter, and he also tends to interrogate a lot of people. Do you know where my daughter is? Where's my daughter?
Yeah.
And then there's a gunshot. You know. So yeah, it looks kind of Clint Eastwoody earlier days. Yeah, so.
I'm interested because it's Viggo Mortensen, who I'll always love from Lord of the Rings, and he's not speaking English. Those are my 2 interest points. It may not be enough to get me into the cinema.
Does he have a sword?
No, he's a gun.
All right.
Smith & Wesson.
Yeah.
He's
no Aragorn.
Okay. We'll leave it there then for this week. Right. So from Steve, Shona, Sean, and Mike. Really forgot your name because I didn't do it alphabetically this week.
Yeah, you don't know who's Sean, Shona,
Mike, and Mark's not here, so
there's too many friggin' S's.
So from Mike, Steve, Sean, and Shona. Stay classy.